caught my attention because he was bragging how their salmon was better than wild salmon, their farmed smoked salmon from British Columbia. Hello, Chef Marcus Guiliano here, and I'm your chef on a mission. Today's mission is more farmed salmon. So see, I was at a food show the other day, and there was a company there called Honey Smoked Fish. Honey Smoked Fish Company out of Denver, Colorado, I believe Aurora, Colorado. And Spencer, the son's owner, caught my attention because he was bragging how their salmon was better than wild salmon, their farmed smoked salmon from British Columbia. And I was at another table, and the people knew that I like salmon, so they said, Marcus, you've got to go over and try this guy's salmon. It's better than wild. And I said, better than wild? I said, it's farmed. How can farmed be better than wild? And as I went over to the table, he was out, and I started talking with him, you know, what makes a salmon so special, and this and that, and he started bragging about, and I asked him some tough questions. I'd already done one video on this, so this is a follow-up video. I plan on doing more videos about the Honey Smoked Fish Company because they're making a lot of extremely bold claims on their website. A lot of bold claims, and I sort of tore the one apart yesterday about the astaxanthin that is fed to the fish. Now it's synthetically produced as opposed to the natural krill or algae-based astaxanthin. So here's the deal. I spoke to Spencer and I said, Spencer, one of the first things I said to him, I said, because he told me how much salmon they were buying from British Columbia and how much they were using. So I said, do you think that, how is the possible evictions going to affect your business? And he goes, there's no evictions. I said, well, the First Nations, the indigenous people in British Columbia, have been occupying salmon farms since like October 25th of last year. They want salmon farms out, and they have water rights there, so they've all officially issued eviction notices for the salmon farms to exit and get out. And he goes, that's not happening. There's no problems there. There's nothing there. I said, so you obviously don't know about this. And he goes, no. So now here comes an article. Another person sent me this article today. One of the environmentalists that I follow, scientists. I follow a lot of people on this subject. A lot of people send me information, some insider information, and some obviously some articles that's posted for everybody. So here's an article in torontometro.ca. So it's metronews.ca. BC government interested in moving from open ocean to land-based fish farms, says the minister. Okay, so salmon farming, here's the issue with salmon farming. Most of salmon farming is done out in the ocean. It's open pen in the ocean. And Spencer was very adamant about how his fish is ocean raised, right? Keyword, oh, the fish is ocean raised. And ocean raised basically means farmed. It's a fancy word of saying farmed, pen raised salmon, open pen salmon farming out in the ocean, basically regular salmon farming. So the problem with the salmon farming is that baby fish swim by and all the wild salmon swim by and all the disease spews out. And I asked Spencer about lice, and he goes, they have no lice issues. Well, he told me they were buying their fish from Cermak. I've actually found that out through some of their posts on Facebook. So I go to Cermak's website, and they say that how they've treated lice before. So Spencer was saying there is no lice, and obviously Cermak, who is producing the salmon, was saying how they treat lice. So a little bit of a conflict there. So lice and salmon farms is just part of the deal with doing that. If you go to Cermak's website, they paint the most beautiful picture of how they're farming salmon with high technology and this and that. And I really have some questions for Cermak too. One of our local experts up there said Cermak is no different. Somebody who lives in that region said that Cermak is no different than any of the other salmon farms out there. You know, they're feeding the salmon highly toxic food pellets and the waste that's coming out and all that kind of stuff. They're all the same basically. So The issue with going to land-based, this article says that they want to go to land-based. Land-based salmon farms are possible. Now, there's still some proponents, people out there that are saying, there's some people out there saying that land-based farms are not a great option compared, but let's compare them to the ocean farms. Land-based is a better viable option because they're in the containment system. Kutera Farms is one of the farms that actually raises them in a more successful manner. Kutera out of British Columbia. They're kind of like the trendsetters up there when it comes to containment farms. And it's run by I think it's run by a tribe up there. It's run by one of the First Nations, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I've had a couple emails with them back and forth. They're still probably feeding the fish the same pellets. So there's still going to be issues with the farm to begin with. However, the advantage of a containment system is it's inland. It's in pools inside of a building, and if there's any disease, it gets filtered out right away. The fish are always in a constant stream of water. The advantage to this is the fish are growing a lot faster. They can get all the parasites and lice or whatever's in the farm. They can get it out because it's going through a filtration system. In the ocean, you can't filter the farm because the water's going out into the ocean and all the excrement's going down. So containment-based systems has a major advantage over that. I don't see an advantage in the food pellets. The salmon are still eating the exact same diet, I believe. If there's any experts out there that know this for sure, just leave a comment because I'd like to learn that as well. I'm just assuming that the same salmon pellets go for both farms. So here's some quotes from the article. The BC and federal governments are facing renewed pressure from the First Nations and environmental organizations to ban open pen salmon farming, which critics say poses a risk to wild salmon after the Washington state legislature voted Friday to phase out the controversial practice. Both BC's neighbors, British Columbia's neighbors, American neighbors, Washington state and Alaska now prohibit marine fish farming, now prohibit salmon farming, open pen salmon farming. So now as a chef here, 20 years ago, when I first got involved in sustainable seafood, when I first started buying, when I said, okay, no more farmed salmon, I used to get the list from a company called EcoFish. This was even 15 years ago. I used to get a list from a company called EcoFish. And I could buy wild salmon on this list from Alaska, from Washington State, and from British Columbia. British Columbia was always on there. There was always Canadian wild West Coast salmon that I could buy. That is extinct. They're not extinct, but the days of me being able to go buy British Columbia salmon, it barely exists anymore. The salmon barely exists on the market here in New York. And EcoFish would specialize in sustainable seafood. They actually ended up phasing it off their list because there wasn't enough for it to go around. So what was happening was the salmon farms. Now keep in mind, you have British Columbia, Alaska on top, Washington underneath. Alaska up top has abundant supplies of salmon. Bristol Bay, an amazing salmon production. The salmon runs are outrageous all through Alaska, all through the Aleutian Islands and such. Kodiak Island. Now, when salmon farming came into British Columbia, the advocates were saying, the activists were saying, this is going to kill off the wild salmon. Alex Morton was very vocal about this and said, you can't put this in the migratory path of the wild salmon. The disease is going to spread out and this and this. And now 25, 30 years later, the First Nations, the indigenous people up there, have no livelihood left because they have no fish to catch because the salmon is dying off. Now, if you go on to Honey Smoked Fish Company, they say that their salmon is the way of the future. Then that salmon runs are down, and it gets really like they're painting a picture like they're serving the best salmon possible. They're not telling you that the salmon farms are the ones that are actually killing off the salmon. There's lots of reports on this. There's lots of things about viruses spreading in and lice and all these things. And Alex Morton has done some groundbreaking work there. She's spent many, many years up there fighting off these salmon farms. And now there's some momentum up there with the First Nations actually sitting and occupying the salmon farms and issuing eviction notices. So Spencer from the Honey Smoked Fish Company denied all of this. He denied everything. He was like, you have no idea. And he was like, I'm not going to argument with you. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just telling you that you don't know the other side of the story. And you're here pushing farmed salmon on people, telling people that this is better than wild salmon. When in fact, it's far, far worse than wild salmon. Your farmed salmon is killing off the wild salmon. So as this article progresses, it goes, the risks of wild salmon, however, go far beyond escaped salmon. So in Washington State last year, aquaculture had a problem. And a couple 100,000 fish escaped into the bay there, into, I think, Puget Sound, and carried out disease, and are now competing for the same food source. And they were actually escaped during the salmon run, where the salmon want to go back up the river, and so this can cause problems as well, spreading disease and competing for the same food source. Once salmon, I believe, hit the mouth of the water and they start swimming up, they stop eating, I believe, is how that works. But out in the bay there, they're eating, so they're competing for the same food source. Atlantic salmon are not fit to live in the wild. They're not fit to reproduce, these farm salmon. It's a totally different type of salmon. So the article then goes on to say salmon stocks, particularly sockeye salmon, are in free fall. The science and campaign advisor for Watershed Watch, a charity focused on conservation of BC's wild salmon. The majority of them migrate past fish farms where they can be exposed to both parasites, sea lice, and pathogens like Piscine reovirus. Piscine reovirus is something from Norway. The Canadian government has denied that it's actually in existence there. Several people have gotten fish tested, and it shows up in their tests, but the Canadian government will not recognize it, because once they recognize it, they have to do something about it. So the Canadian, whatever they call them up there, DFO, the fish organization, they're denying that this exists when there's actually stuff. When people say, here's the test results, Alex Morton says, here's the test results, here they are. So Honey Smoked Fish Company, you really need to tighten your website up. You really need to tighten your website up. You're misleading a lot of people here. A lot of people are buying your product. You are very popular at all the food shows. I spoke to a friend of mine who goes to the Vegas bar nightclub show, and you're extremely popular there. You give away a lot of products. I saw you posting that you're going to be in Wisconsin at the food show there. And, you just really need to tidy up and stop misleading people on this, because this is, my personal opinion, this is downright fraudulent. And your truth in advertising has been really stretched very far. And my plan is, with some other people, is to go through your website and really go through there and kind of tear apart a lot of your claims, because you're making a lot of claims that totally go the other way. Farmed salmon is not a superfood compared to wild salmon. You made a comment, on your website about the total overall contaminants in it, and we have some questions for that. Now, I sent them an email. I sent Honey Smoked Fish Company an email saying that if you provide me with raw samples, I will actually get the fish tested, and then we can report back what is actually in the fish. I've not gotten an email back from Honey Smoked Fish Company, nor have they responded on any of my Facebook comments. So they're laying kind of low on this, and like I said, Spencer was very vocal and very adamant, so I'd like them to back that up. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. If you can find Honey Smoked Fish Company, send them this video. I'm gonna send this video too, but let them know that consumers are watching them, and they're not gonna put up with their false advertising. Thanks for watching.